So think about the things that have changed in your business. And does your promise still align to the service offering or the product offering that you have? Is the process still aligned to that? Are your people, because some people aren't aligned. It's like, I just don't, I'm not like, we're going to use tech. I don't like going on video, or I don't like doing stuff on video. I'm old school. I like to do it face. I want to shake hands and stuff like that. It's like, well, okay, but that's not how we do business anymore.
You're listening to the Traffic Handler Podcast. We're about getting new customers, making more sales, and growing your e-commerce retail business. I'm your host, Amy Biddle. My guest today is Pete Mohr of simplifyingentrpreneurship.com. Pete's a former business broker and current consultant to business owners. I wanted to talk with Pete about how to set up a business for a sale, meaning an exit. So you are in your business and you want to end the business. And how do you do that? I know that many store owners start off their businesses without even thinking about where they want to be in 5 years, 10 years, or even 30 years. Pete's got some great tips for how to plan, whether you're going to sell your business or not. So take a listen, and I hope you enjoy today's show. So I'm here with Pete Mohr today, and we're talking business here on the Traffic Handler Podcast. And Pete, you've done some really cool stuff, with you're a former business broker. And I'm really interested in hearing about Shootopia and, just everything. So you want to kick us off with everything you're doing? I mean, you're a consultant, coach, former broker.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a lifelong entrepreneur, Amy. It's all I've really ever done. I only worked for about 6 months for somebody else on a full-time basis.
Yeah.
And kind of decided that time, it's like, this isn't for me. I need to do my own thing. So I actually early on bought a franchise, and it was a bathroom renovation company. And we had that and bought that in 1994 and owned it. Went through a crazy amount of change in the franchise, and we ended up defranchising it about 5 years later, and sold it about 10 years after that. And then so I ran that. It's still happily, it's still going strong, and oh my gosh, time flies. But already here, as we record in 2022, we started that in 1994.
Yeah.
You can put the time together, and it really adds up. And, so during that time, I also had another business, and it was a cleaning franchise that we ran simultaneously. And we grew that one, bought it at 30 customers, grew it and sold it at 300 customers. And then I became a business broker, like you said, and helped people buy and sell businesses. And I mean, I just love business. So that was an easy flip for me. And I have a business background and an MBA and that kind of stuff. So that all the numbers and everything works and all that kind of stuff. And that's when I found, you mentioned we own Shootopia now. We own some shoe stores. And that's where I found Shootopia. I actually pitched it to somebody else, and they said, there's no way I'm moving 5 hours away to some little town and own a shoe store. And I'm like, this sounds like a good business. And that was 2010. So we moved our family, and we've owned and we've had a couple of other shoe stores. We've bought a shoe store. We've closed the shoe store. We sit now with a couple of Shootopia stores. And I was there earlier today. I don't spend a lot of time on my shoe stores because I spend most of my time these days with simplifying entrepreneurship, which is my coaching business that you mentioned. And, talking to people like you and talking to business owners and helping people through their struggles. And because I've had a vast sort of variety of experiences, I can talk to a lot of different business owners about their problems, because I've worked in the service, I've worked in retail, I've worked in professional services. So, it's these things that I just love talking business and helping people through what I call their trials and tribulations, and work through their frustrations and turn them into freedoms. And a lot of that's got to do with setting up your business to sell properly too, Amy, which I know you wanted to talk about today a little bit, because a business really only becomes a sellable entity when it's not a job for the person that's buying it.
Right.
And, if you're going to be, it's much more valuable as a cash flow than it is as a job.
Yes, absolutely. And that was one of the reasons that I wanted to ask you about the exit strategy of selling. Rather than the exit strategy of, we're just going to do this until we're either dead or bored, and that's not an exit strategy. You really have to go into a business thinking, all right, where are we going with this? And is this going to be something to sell? Because a lot of the businesses, I'm dealing with small Shopify store owners.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. We
that's
use
a very
Shopify.
viable, right? It's
Yeah.
a viable business, it's a real business, and it's an asset that you can build and sell. And so, for all the people who haven't considered that exit, that's why I wanted to talk to you today,
Yeah.
because it's a brilliant way to go. How can you grow a business so that you can sell it?
Well, it's interesting, Amy, because my last meeting before I was here, I was over at one of my shoe stores and I was meeting with reps. We're looking, believe it or not, we're already buying our footwear for next spring and summer. That's how far
Yes.
ahead it is.
Yes.
But as we're talking there, she's like, oh, this store is closing and this store is closing. We've got a couple more opening. And it's always kind of the chatter,
Mhm.
And one of these stores that, I know the owners because I see them at the shows and all sort of stuff. They're closing their stores. And I said, well, did they try to sell it? And they said, no, they're just closing down. But this business is a strong independent footwear retailer that's been there for probably 30 years, and they've done well and they've made a good living. And for them not to sell that entity as a business,
Yeah.
to me, is sad.
Yeah.
Because, to close it down and just liquidate,
Mhm.
I think they own their building, so they'll get their building out of it. But they could have actually sold the business with a operational business intact
Yes.
that's going to rent from them, hold the building, and continue to rent that as their cash flow in retirement if they wanted to.
Yeah.
If they just would have given themselves 1 or 2 years to set that up in order to do that and to create the turnkey business that they needed to basically hand it off, because they realized that, hey, it's the two of us that have worked in the store for the most of the time with 1 or 2 other people. And when we leave, there's nothing, it's very hard to carry this thing on. Well, that's true. They didn't set themselves up with a turnkey business. They set themselves up with a job for the last 30 years.
Right.
Where even if they would have spent the last couple of years in setting that up, they could have sold that cash flow. Let's say it made $200,000 maybe a year. I'll just throw that out there. Well, you know what? Somebody would buy a $200,000 cash flow if they didn't have to work in it every day because it was already set up.
Yes. Right.
And rent
That's
the
not
building
difficult to
from
make
them.
that shift, right? So let's say 25 years they have a job, and then the last 5 years they spend installing systems.
Setting it up.
Right.
And I mean, in my opinion, is you should be installing systems from day one, but
Well, yeah.
that's a different talk,
It's, yeah, it is.
and from my side of things, I work in my shoe stores generally about, I would say, half day to a day a week.
Yep.
And I spend the rest of my time doing this. And it's because this is what I'm passionate about. And I'm passionate about shoes too. I love my shoe stores. But at the same time, I don't want to be opening the door and closing the door every night. I don't want to be making every single little decision. I've set up my 5 Ps, which I know we can chat a little bit about today.
Yes,
I have this
please.
model around the 5 Ps of creating this freedom within your business.
Yep.
And those 5 Ps are understanding your promise, aligning your product, your process, and your people to it so that you can generate the right amount of profit. And, this conversation we've just been having is sort of around that profit piece where it's like, okay, well, if I want to pull in all the profit for 30 years, great. That's fine. It's a personal choice as your owner. It's up to you to decide how you want to spend that. And then, but the other thing is they could have taken some of that profit, hired a manager to actually learn and understand what it is they do over the last couple of years, retained some of the profit, but now they're actually handing over a cash flowing business that has 30-year history and is going to pay them rent on their building for the next 30 years.
Right.
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 So you see this kind of stuff in business brokerage a lot. And, the people that are working in their business, making every single little decision because they think they need to, basically don't have a sellable business.
Yeah. You basically own your job, and, when it's done, it goes away. And there's, I mean, it's nice that they have the building, but, I know people who've been in businesses like that where it was 30 years and they rented the building the whole time too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, heartbreaking.
Well, I mean, we rent our stores, and so, but we have a cash flowing business, right?
Right.
So, I mean, there's different ways of looking at things, and I think that's just part of the clarity you need as the entrepreneur, and the clarity you need when you setting things up to look at your end. Well, what is it that you want out of this at the end? Is the end 5 years away? Is it 10 years away? Is it 15 years away or 30 years away?
Right.
Some of the clarity points need to be taken into effect here so that you can actually go ahead and start making some decisions on the process in place and the people, those two middle P's there.
Yeah.
Because assuming you have we can start by saying the promise that you have is, what problem are you solving for your customers? How do you uniquely do that so that they can have a better life? Because everybody buys a better life.
Mm-hmm.
Flip it back to shoe stores. Our sort of motto is we want you to leave the store looking great and feeling fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we have done that, you actually look in the mirror and you go, ooh, I look pretty good. And you kind of close your eyes and you go, ah, man, those feel awesome. Then you're like, aha, Shoetopia is my favorite shoe store.
Mm-hmm.
If we can deliver that in the process and with our people and experience, that's a sellable thing if I don't have to make every decision, right? And I don't make many of them because our process is right. And my team is aligned with the promise.
Right.
They know what to do. They know the decisions they need to have. Decisions are being made at the lowest possible level of our business every day, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And things run relatively smoothly.
Right,
Do I need to be involved?
You have strong processes, so that's not an issue.
And strong people.
Yes, good.
Right.
Good.
And so do I need to be involved? Yeah, I need to be involved. Do people quit? Yeah, people quit and you have to step in. And I mean, that's part of being an owner and all that sort of stuff. But nonetheless, it's not like I need to be there opening the door. People say, I'm working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And when's it going to stop? And all this kind of stuff. And it's like, these are choices that we make along the way.
Yeah.
And sure, you need to do that when you start up. Almost everybody needs to put in their time when they start up. But once the cash flow starts to come a little bit more, then you're making these decisions with that profit piece. You're making that decision. It's like, okay, can I bring somebody on to take some of this off? And then you're assigning accountability, right? But the thing is when you start assigning accountability, you need to have the proper processes in place. They need to be able to know what to do, not just say, oh, you're a marketing person, go for it. Like
go do marketing, whatever that is.
Yeah. It's like there has to be some things in alignment in order for things to happen. And, that takes time, Amy. It takes time to set things up and doesn't happen overnight. And if you haven't really started doing some of this stuff with your business, the people who are listening here today, then you got to start thinking about some of this. Like, how do you want that to look? What's your next hire? Who's the next person that could alleviate what I call some of the stuff you'd like to leave? So I have this platform called Love It or Leave It. And you want to work in your love it zone as much as you can and leave the stuff that you don't love to somebody else who actually, for them, they might love it. Like I'll use accounting, for example.
Yes.
I mentioned I'm actually pretty good at accounting. Like I'm good with numbers and I'm good at looking at an income and loss sheet and I'm good at looking at balance sheets and picking apart stuff. And I can do it fairly well, fairly efficiently and fairly quickly. I just don't like doing it. I don't like doing it. I don't like inputting stuff. It's just not for me. So I have a bookkeeper and she loves it. Like you can hear her in the office. She'll be like, woohoo, woohoo. Like she woohoos when she balances stuff. Like she's doing the Visa statement and, she's finished it off and everything's checked. She's like, woohoo. And I'm like, wow. I'd be like, oh my God. And she's like, woohoo. So
that's great.
That's the thing when you're aligning the right people,
right?
That, you don't have to do everything as the business owner. You don't have to make every decision. And there are other people that can get through stuff and probably even do it better than you can.
Right. That's key. The goal is not to be the smartest kid in the room. The goal is to hand off things. Today's episode is sponsored by Schema app for Shopify. Connect with customers at the beginning of their buying journey. Adding structured data to your Shopify store helps search engines better understand your website. This increases the chance of customers finding and purchasing products and services like yours. Get started today at schemaapp.com, schemaapp.com. Let's say somebody is, because a lot of the people that I'm working with right now, they're running everything. If they walk away, they're really out of luck, or they have very few people to turn things over to. Let's talk about setting up the, I don't know what you call them. I think of them as standard operating
Yeah.
procedures.
Yeah. I
Like
just call them
what's
processes.
sure,
Yeah.
what's the process? So how do you go about setting those up when you're just starting?
You detail pretty much everything is what you do. So the only way you can hand something off is if there's a process.
Mhm.
And so we use a bunch of tools for that. So we're talking about Utopia today. And by the way, Utopia, I'll throw a plug out there for Shopify. We're Shopify users. We use their
Yes.
POS. We use their online system and have for a long time. Harley, who's I'm not sure where. I think he's either the CEO or the COO of Shopify. I'm from Ottawa originally, and so is Shopify.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I've met him and sat at the table with him years ago, around the table looking at small businesses and stuff like that. So cool Shopify stories.
Right.
But when I look at Shopify and I look at my stores, I don't do the receiving of our footwear at our stores.
Mhm.
Um, we thankfully are big enough that I actually have a team, right? And that I've got people at each store that does the receiving. And
Yes.
so what happens is the person who's in charge of all of our inventory is
Mhm.
in charge of creating the process around bringing in the inventory and unboxing it and tagging it and all that stuff, and how does it get uploaded into Shopify and how do we get it out on the floor. So when they go through process to do that, or if there's a change in process, they usually get me because they know I've never done it in like 6 months, and they say, can you go through this process and see if it's right, because they know that I don't do it. So I get the sheet of paper, and or if it's online on Word, or we have a variety of different things, or sometimes we'll put it on a Loom video, and it's
Yes.
like here on the Loom video, we just go through it on video depending on the process that we're setting up.
Mhm.
Some of them are audio, some of them are videos, some of them are documented in paper depending on the process we have.
Mhm.
And so they'll just say, can you do this? So I'll go through it step by step by step, and I'll say, I don't understand this one. And they'll say, oh yeah, that's one everybody here knows, but you don't work in the back end of Shopify, so you wouldn't know that. And it's like, well, it's got to be documented properly. So they change the document. I go through it again, and bing, it's ready. So that a new hire comes on board, and we're going to ask somebody else. It's like, okay, Julie, you're going to start doing some receiving. Here's the procedure. So all they
Yes.
have to do is go through it. It's there step by
Mhm.
step. And sure, down the road, it'll be second nature to them. But off the bat, at least they can go through bing, 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 and it's there. Right.
That's great.
So these are the things. It's like, how are you documenting? It seems like an overwhelming amount of documentation at the beginning. Well, you start with the small things and you work your way, and eventually you've got quite a substantial library of documentation. And, there are no perfect processes, but we're always trying to perfect them. And so
Yes.
we're always trying to just better them in any given way, and making sure that you have the availability to share the documentation is a big thing. So we have shared Google Drives. We have shared, facilities that allow between the stores and between anybody that needs access to them, how they can go in and see their standard operating procedures, processes, as I call them, in my 5P formula.
Mhm.
All of those sort of things are available to anybody who has authority and accountability upon them.
Great. Okay. So no one is flooded with information. Like, here's this enormous binder with everything in it.
It's there. We
It's
have it.
if they need it. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So depending, like at the front cash, we have certain cash register, like we have a cash register binder, for example,
Mhm.
but it's all available on the documents in our G Drive as well, which they can pull up on their iPad or on the till or anywhere else. I mean, it's available in different formats for anyone who likes to either watch it or read it. That's the other thing, right? You have to have it available in the format that they are going to use.
Right. Right.
And
Not
if
everyone is going to read the whole thing, but got the
they'll watch the
iPad,
video,
they could do that's right.
it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll watch a little, minute and a half Loom video, and I'll put it on 2 times speed to get through in 3/4 of a minute, and I'll know what to do. Great. It's there.
Perfect. As long as it works.
Yeah.
Good. Are there people who ever do a little extra and cross train to get another job? I mean, like as far as within your ecosystem? Or,
How do you mean?
well, like let's say I'm a cashier and I want
Yeah.
to do receiving.
Yeah.
No, so I could do the training and then, oh, now I can do two jobs.
Yeah, we cross
Yes,
train almost everybody,
that's
through
great.
time. Yeah, so
Mhm.
that everybody becomes a key holder in our stores, and a lot of them will go either to either store as well, and they can
Right.
open. They can open. I mean, even though we're, you're in the States, so 30 miles away
Right.
from the two stores instead of 45 kilometers.
Mhm. Yes, thank you.
We're about 30 miles between the two stores, but some of the people live halfway in between, and they don't care which way they go. So, but the
Mhm.
operating procedures are the same in both stores. That's
Great,
another thing, right?
great.
It's the same operating. There's not two different operating procedures because we have two different stores. It's the same for our whole organization.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where they go. They know that there's going to be these things here and these things here, and this is the procedure to do it, and this is how we run our business. And when
Yes.
I need answers, I know here's where I go, or here's who I talk to. And those are the things, when you have your accountabilities in place,
Mhm.
that allows your customer to have a better experience because, like I said earlier, decisions can be made at the lowest possible level, as
Yes.
opposed to,
Key.
oh, well, we're going to have to wait till so and so's in and they're off today. And oh, by the way, they're taking summer vacation, so they won't be back till the following Monday. How
Mhm.
happy is a customer there who has a problem?
Not at
Not so
all.
happy.
No. And that's the key. It comes back to the customer happiness. So, and that's why we do everything that we do in business is, customer service and keep the customers happy and keep them buying from us instead of, some terrible place that starts with a Z.
It's an interesting thing, and that comes back to the clarity of your promise, right?
Yes. Yep.
So truly understanding what your client's problem is.
Mhm.
And the problem for a lot of companies has changed over the last few years because people are
Yes.
buying what you sell in a different way than they might have been 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes.
And if you haven't changed, then that's a problem. And that's the product or service alignment to the promise. That's that piece that seems to have been broken over the last couple of years for a lot of people that haven't updated. And they said, you know what? Well, we've always done it that way. Well, we've always done it that way. Well, your clients are bypassing you. Let's just use Zoom. We're having this call on Zoom today. I
Yep.
mean, we've been using Zoom within our organization for probably 5 or 6 years, but
Mhm.
2 or 3 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of people using Zoom.
That's true.
Well, I can tell you that Zoom has dramatically changed the way certain businesses run. And if they haven't changed their products and their services and their people and their processes around Zoom, they're losing out because there's other clients that have bypassed them.
Yes.
So think about the things that have changed in your business. And does
Everything.
your promise still align to the service offering or the product offering that you have? Is the process still aligned to that? Are
Right.
your people, because some people aren't aligned. It's like, I just don't, I'm not like, we're going to use tech. I don't like going on video, or I don't like doing stuff on video. I'm old school. I like to do it face. I want to shake hands and stuff like that. It's like, well, okay, but that's not how we do business anymore.
It's true. Right. Right.
So, think about all those things because your job as the business owner is to be the strategic direction leader of where things are going, right? So,
Yes.
you have to spend some time working on your business and thinking about this stuff because if you don't, you get left behind in the dirt. And then how sellable is your business?
Yeah, well, not
Mm,
really. Yeah, exactly. So let's say you've got processes in place, but you need more people now to fulfill everything
yeah.
because obviously you have to have something for your employees or
Mhm.
contractors,
Yeah.
depending on how a business
Yeah.
is put
Sure.
together. So let's say you've got all your processes as mapped out as well as you can.
Mm,
How do you go about hiring people? That's
yeah. So,
not easy.
That P is people for me. That's the fourth P. Often the biggest problem for most entrepreneurs, but also the biggest freedom point
Mhm.
because it's only through people that you're going to allow yourself more freedom in your business.
Yes.
And so we think about that and it's like, okay, once I've really nailed some of these processes down, have I nailed enough of these processes down that I have a half day's work for somebody, a full
Right.
day's work for somebody, whatever the case is. And
Mhm.
then whether you're doing that virtually and setting that up virtually or setting it up as an in-person thing, I mean, that's a personal thing for each business owner, depending on what they do and where they're working and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But how do you hire? Well, we've used what I call Discovery Day for
Mhm.
over 25 years now. And
Great.
back in my cleaning days, And we talked a little bit about the fact that I had a cleaning business for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And we focused on cleaning sinks, toilets, and urinals.
The
So
fun
I have
stuff.
had my hands in all sorts of sinks, toilets, and urinals more than anybody probably listening to this show times 20
Mhm.
or maybe times 200. And you know what? That is not the most glamorous of jobs. And when you're hiring for somebody to come in and clean sinks, toilets, and urinals every day, they'll say, "Oh yeah, no problem. I can do that."
Mm.
And then it's like, "Okay, well, we start at 5 in the morning. Yeah, yeah, no problem, no problem. I'll be there." Okay. So we're going to do a discovery day, which is 2 hours. You come and, we've had our first interview. The second interview is on the job training, discovery day. Can you do the work?
Right.
And so they come out, and first thing is, did they actually show up at 10 to 5 so we can leave at 5?
Yes.
Because we leave at 5 in the morning. So
Mhm.
if they don't show up on time, then we're gone at 5. I've had people say, "Hey, it's like 10 after 5. Where are you guys?" It's like, "I told you we leave at 5.
Yeah.
Can't show up for your discovery day interview. You're not going to make it here."
Yeah,
Right. So
exactly.
that's elimination one.
Mhm.
And so elimination two is like, okay, here's your kit, here's your gloves, here's your knee pads.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's
So,
go.
and we're
Right.
down in the bathrooms, and we're, on our hands and knees in front of the toilets. And here's how you clean a toilet. Okay, you do the next one. Here's how you clean a urinal. You do the next one. Here's
Mhm.
how you clean a sink. You do the next one. Here's how you change an air freshener, a hand soap dispenser, a paper dispenser, all the different things, feminine napkin bins, all those things that we looked after in the bathrooms for all of our clients.
Yes.
Can you do this work? And can you be up and down, 1,000 times a day? And be courteous to people at 5 in the morning. Our client says we're going in and out and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a discovery day.
Yeah.
So whether you're doing cleaning toilets at 5 in the morning, or whether you're bookkeeping, like we talked about, give them a bookkeeping project and see what they give back to you.
Yes.
Whether you're on, like in our shoe stores as a salesperson, it's like, come on the sales floor on our busiest day. It's like I want to see how you interact with clients. I want to see how I'm not asking you to sell all of our footwear because you don't know all the backgrounds and all that stuff, but I just want to see, can you get behind a counter? Can you get behind the iPad and see, like, how comfortable are you with a point of sale system?
Yeah.
Right? We're talking Shopify. It's like, it's not that hard. It's like some click and drag stuff. Are
Mhm.
you pretty comfortable with putting in a customer here? Can you type in their name on the name file? So all of these different jobs, once you have the process in place, it's like, okay, here's our customer. We're going to go to the till. Now, what do we do? Well, we put in their name and we scan in their code. And here's the 3 or 4 little things. So show me that you can do that in your couple of hours. And if you can, and you fit culturally, and a couple of other things that we align in hiring the right people with our store, then great, let's go.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
But if we didn't have the processes in place, then we'd bring them in and they'd be kind of walking around the store aimlessly.
Yeah.
Or, if we didn't have, if I told them, well, here's QuickBooks, go at it, and just said, here's your box of stuff, like, like
Now,
have something set up for them to actually try.
yeah.
Compare that try to somebody else you're bringing on board. Like, we're going to use accounting, for example. Give them a small little project on reconciling something or whatever the case is, and show me that you can do it. Do it with the next person too, the exact same project, so you can actually compare the two of
Yes.
them.
Good.
And then you can get this feel for who's a better fit, so that, and does it work every time? No, it doesn't. But if you don't do that, then all you're really getting is somebody who's, sent you in an application, and they've elected to put on what they think you want to see and elected to omit what they think you don't want to see on
Yes.
that. And how much better is that than actually spending an hour or two with them before you hire them, so you
Mhm.
don't have to get them all going and payroll and all this other stuff, and then find out a week later that they're no good because they couldn't even do the first thing you gave to them, and then you're back at the drawing board again.
Yeah.
I'd sooner go through that in discovery day right off the bat, and they say, you know what, there's no way I can be on my knees all day cleaning toilets after this first 2 hours. I just know I can't do it. Great. That's a good outcome of that
Yes.
discovery
Right.
day.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And if they say, yeah, I can do this. This is good. I like working on my own. I like being done early in the day. I've got kids. I want to be home for after school, all this other stuff. The reasons they do want to do that job.
Yep.
Great. Let's go.
That's a
And
good
so
point.
these are the things around hiring and firing, but you need to have the processes in place. Like, they need to know this is what is going to be done every day, and this is what we're expecting of you, so that we can assign accountability to what it is that they're going to do. Because you know what, if you don't do that as a leader, that's your job, to communicate accountability to the next level so
Yeah.
that they can communicate accountability to their level. And if it's only you and you're hiring your first person, then yeah, you just need to be there for them to help them through, but don't do their work for them, because
Mm.
why would you hire somebody, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
but you have to also give them what they need to do the work. That's an
Yes,
important piece.
absolutely. So what you're saying, and you just used this word, leader, you have
Mm,
to be a leader.
yeah, for sure.
You can't just be a tyrant. You can't say, why didn't you know how to do this?
Yeah.
I mean,
You
business
have to
owners and
prepare them.
myself too. Like
Yeah.
if I have to take complete responsibility for every outcome, which means training people, which means providing the materials that they need,
Mhm.
everything. And
Yeah, for
that's true
sure.
for any business.
Yeah. And as you move up the ladder within your business, depending on how big your business grows, you become to the point where, or in my opinion, I will say should, which should is a hard word sometimes, but
It is.
you should become to the point where you're not making those decisions all the time, and you're making the decisions that are more strategically focused on direction of your business and some of the things around that sort of stuff, as opposed to, can I return this pair of shoes or not? Or, how do I take this invoice? Or this is a weird circumstance on, something that happens every day. Those kind of decisions should be left to the other people that are capable of doing that work.
Mhm.
If they're coming to you all the time, that's a frustration. And that needs to, that's like an endless frustration. You'll never be free if you don't release the accountability.
That's true. Absolutely. So let's see. There were a couple of other things. We've been here about a half an hour, and I do like to keep the podcast, consumable,
Yeah, for sure.
length of time. And everything you're saying is just gold. Um, I know that you have a podcast
I
and you're
do.
also a coach. Can you
I
talk
am.
a little bit about how people can learn from you and work with you?
For sure. My podcast is called Simplifying Entrepreneurship, and it's all around this stuff. It's all around talking about, how can I cut the frustration of running a business, and how can I simplify running my business, because it is hard work.
Yes.
And, there are ways around it, and people have done it before. And so I like to interview those people, and, changing around our podcast as well a little bit, but mostly interview based these days, short 20-minute episodes, consumable in your drive to work, that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
like you were mentioning. And, you can find me at simplifyingentrepreneurship.com. We have a great assessment there that, if you click assessment, what it does, takes about 10 minutes to do the assessment, and you'll get back a 60 or so page document of all the things you're really doing well within your business, as well as the things you need to work on. And, I had two people fill them out yesterday, and it's just going through them. It's like, wow, it's so interesting to see this person's lacking some leadership stuff. This person's lacking cash flow. This person's lacking marketing. And it's like, but doing really well on these areas. And,
Mhm.
you can really see how some of the businesses evolve through this. And you can see how yours does too when you fill out the survey. So it's really great. And yeah, I coach. I just love having these conversations, and that's what I do. I have one-on-one conversations with a lot of my coaching clients through the States, and mostly in the States and through Canada here too,
Mhm.
mostly done on Zoom. And I do half-day sessions and speaking gigs and stuff like that, but it's a lot of fun.
That is fun. Good for you. Well, Pete, thank you so much for being here. And you're going over specifically the processes and the people. It's super helpful. I
Yeah,
know listeners are going to love it. And just thanks for being here.
my pleasure. Whether you're ready to sell your business, or whether you're just doing it because you want to keep your business, understanding those two P's, a big piece in creating freedom for yourself as an entrepreneur.
That's what it's all about. You've been listening to the Traffic Handler Podcast. We're about getting new customers, making more sales, and growing your e-commerce retail business. I'm your host, Amy Biddle. Get more at amybiddle.me. And until next time, go sell more stuff.